Scotland is a land of legend, where the forests whisper, the lochs conceal shadows, and the stones remember. Here we explore the folklore that shaped this land. Fairies in Aberfoyle, the Grey Man of Ben Macdui, haunted cairns, cursed trees, and spirits that still linger in the mist. Not tales for cheap scares, but the truths, the fears, and the warnings carried across centuries. If you've ever felt a chill walking alone, or wondered what stirs in Scotland's shadowed places, then join me. Subscribe and step into the stories of SamHain's Scotland. At the very edge of the Highlands, where the River Forth begins its long journey east, lies the village of Aberfoyle. At first glance, it seems a quiet place, tucked beneath the rise of Craigmore and surrounded by deep forests. Yet Aberfoyle has long been more than just a village. It has been a threshold, a gateway into the Trossachs, and perhaps into older mysteries as well. The name itself carries this sense of crossing. From the old tongue, it means the mouth of the burn, a meeting of waters. For centuries, it has been a point of passage, where Lowland Road meets Highland Trail. The Duke's Pass, carved in the 19th century by the Duke of Montrose, winds its way over the shoulders of the hills, offering travellers both a route north and a view into the wild heart of Scotland. Industry once thrived here. On Craigmore's steep face, slate quarries echoed with the ring of hammers through the 19th and early 20th centuries. Wool, linen and iron once passed through the village, and the railway brought visitors from Stirling, ending its line in Aberfoyle before vanishing again in the 1950s. Though the tracks are long gone, the sense of Aberfoyle as a place of arrival remains. Yet Aberfoyle's fame does not lie in stone or steel alone. It is best known for its connection to the unseen. This is a village steeped in fairy lore, so much so that it has been called Scotland's fairy capital. The forests that stretch from its heart into Queen Elizabeth Forest Park seem to carry that reputation well. Visitors walking beneath the canopy often remark on the hush, as though watched by eyes just out of sight. To the north lies Doon Hill, crowned with a solitary Scots pine. Its branches bear offerings, cloth, ribbons, small tokens, tied there by those who still believe the fairies listen. For generations, people have walked up that path, leaving their wishes to flutter in the wind. Some treat it as a curiosity, others as a serious pact. But whatever the reason, the tradition endures, and the pine stands sentinel, watching quietly over the village below. Today, Aberfoyle balances this past with its place in the present. It is the heart of the Queen Elizabeth Forest Park, home to trails, wildlife, and even treetop adventures. The Scottish Wool Centre reminds visitors of the old ways of spinning and weaving, while the Three Lochs Forest Drive and the gravel foil cycle routes take travellers deeper into the landscape. And so Aberfoyle remains what it has always been, a meeting place of river and mountain, of highland and lowland, of past and present, and perhaps of this world and the next. High on the wooded slopes, above the village of Aberfoyle, lies a rise the locals call Doon Hill. By daylight, the path is easy beneath the foot. Roots knot across the earth, moss thickens on stones, and shafts of sunlight slant down through the pine branches. To the eye, it seems no more than a pleasant hilltop walk. But Scotland has many places that change when the sun dips and shadows lengthen. At dusk, Doon Hill grows still. Birds that chattered in the day fall silent all at once. A heavy quietness settles among the trees. The wind, which in daylight sighs through the branches, begins to take on another character. It rises in sudden flurries, carrying a murmur that drifts between the trunks, a sound that could almost be mistaken for voices. At the crown of the hill stands a solitary pine, older and darker than those that surround it. Its branches sag beneath hundreds of fluttering ribbons, faded cloth strips, coins, charms, even shoes. Offerings tied by visitors who have climbed here for centuries. They call this pine the Faerie Tree. Some climb seeking blessing. Some whisper prayers for the departed. Others come out of curiosity alone. But every ribbon tied here is bound to a story. And all those stories circle back to one man, Robert Kirk, the minister who listened too closely, wrote too much, and is said to have paid for it with his very soul. His fate is bound to the Faerie Tree still, and the hill on which it stands has become a threshold between this world and the other. Robert Kirk was born in 1644 in the parish of Aberfoyle, Perthshire. His Scotland was not the country we know today. The 17th century was an age of upheaval. Civil wars had torn across the land. The Kirk, the national church, wrestled with questions of authority and scripture. And the Highlands remained apart, clinging to their Gaelic tongue and the old ways that many in the lowlands scorned as backward superstition. From his earliest years, Kirk showed a gift for languages and learning. He studied at St Andrews, then at Edinburgh. Unlike many of his peers, he was fluent in Gaelic. In a time when many Highland ministers couldn't even converse with their flock in their native tongue, Kirk's abilities gave him a rare closeness to his people. In 1684, he published the first complete Gaelic metrical psalter, allowing the psalms to be sung in the language of the Highlands. Later, he worked on the Great Gaelic Bible itself, a project supported by Robert Boyle in London. To his fellow ministers, Kirk was industrious, pious, and faithful. Yet there was another side to him. By hearthfires and crofts, Kirk listened as his parishioners spoke of things that belonged neither to scripture nor to sermon. They spoke of visions, of second sight, of hills that glowed in moonlight, of voices calling from the dark. They told of charms left on doorsteps, of protection against abductions, of rules whispered to children about where not to play. Most ministers dismissed these tales as dangerous nonsense. Kirk did not. He listened, He asked questions. He believed that the words of the people deserved to be recorded, not mocked, not condemned, but studied. And so, quietly, he began to write. The world Kirk entered was alive with beliefs that had lingered for generations. In the Highlands, every glen and hill carried its own lore. They spoke of the second sight, a gift or curse that let certain men and women see beyond ordinary vision. Some saw funerals before they happened, hearing the wail of lament long before a coffin was carried. Others saw figures that vanished when approached, or shadows that followed people home though no one was there. Protections were everywhere. Iron was carried in pockets or laid across cradles, its cold edge said to repel the unseen. Rowan wood, bound with red thread, was hung above doors. Milk was poured at thresholds to appease those who might otherwise sour it in the churn. And there were rules never to be broken. Never cut down a lone hawthorn tree. Never mock the flickering lights on the moors. Never walk home whistling at midnight. Beyond the taboos, the Highlands told of beings who shared the land with humankind. They called them the people of peace, or more commonly, the good folk. These were not the tiny winged sprites of later fairy tales, but a people of their own, beautiful, perilous, neither wholly good nor wholly evil. Some believed they lived beneath the hills, in a realm of their own, mirroring ours. Others whispered they walked among us unseen, slipping in and out of sight. It was into this landscape of belief that Robert Kirk began to write down what others ignored. In 1691, Kirk finished a manuscript that would secure his legacy and perhaps seal his doom. He titled it The Secret Commonwealth of Elves, Fauns and Fairies. No minister before had dared to give such attention to the folklore of his flock. Yet Kirk approached it as a scholar, linguist, and collector of testimony. He described the good folk as of middle nature betwixt man and angel, of a fluid body, somewhat congealed, like condensed cloud. He recorded their habits. They are ever readiest to go on messages at night, their bodies being so pliable through the subtlety of the spirits that agitate them. They can make them appear or disappear at pleasure. He wrote of elf arrows, ancient flints unearthed in the soil, believed to be the weapons of these hidden beings. He told of their fear of iron, a detail that explained centuries of charms and protections. He gave long passages to the cursed gift of second sight, noting that those who bore it often considered it more a burden than a blessing. Kirk's manuscript went further than mere description. He connected Highland beliefs with older traditions across Europe, comparing them to the fauns of the ancients, to tales from Ireland and the Norse. He treated these stories not as peasant rambling, but as pieces of a greater puzzle, evidence that an other order of beings lived beside mankind. hidden from view yet woven into daily life. For his parishioners, this seriousness was startling. For his fellow clergy, it bordered on dangerous. And if the people of peace themselves were aware, if they truly listened, they may have judged it betrayal. The year after he finished the manuscript, 1692, Robert Kirk was gone. He was found collapsed on Doon Hill. The official word was that he had died suddenly while walking, a natural end to a life of service. His body was buried in Aberfoyle's kirkyard, where the stone still stands today. But the people whispered otherwise. They said Robert Kirk had not died at all. They said his grave was but a husk, while his true spirit was taken by the good folk, held prisoner for revealing their secrets. And then came the story that has made him immortal. At the christening of his child, Robert Kirk appeared before his cousin, Graham of Ducray. He was not ghost, but flesh, though bound by enchantment. He begged Graham to free him. All it would take, he said, was to cast an iron blade across his form. That one act would break the spell and return him to life. But Graham hesitated, whether from fear, disbelief, or paralysis of doubt. His hand faltered. The chance passed. Before the eyes of the family, Kirk vanished. The fairy minister was gone, never to return. From that day, the people of Aberfoyle said that Kirk's soul was held within the hill itself, imprisoned by the very beings he had studied. Since Kirk's death, Doon Hill has been seen as more than a hill. It has become a place of passage, where the veil between worlds is said to thin. At its summit stands the Faerie Tree, and with it, a tradition that has endured centuries. Visitors tie clooties, scraps of cloth, ribbons, even written prayers to its branches. Some ask for healing, others beg for fortune. Many whisper petitions for Kirk himself, that he may at last be freed. The tree is said to root in both worlds, 1 foot in ours, one in the other world. Those who climb tell of sudden changes in the air. The woods, that moments before rang with birdsong, fall eerily silent. The wind carries whispers just beyond comprehension. Some claim to feel eyes upon them. Others say they laughed at the offering, only to suffer strange misfortunes soon after. Across Scotland, there are other sacred trees. Hawthorns, standing solitary in fields. Wells where offerings are left. Mounds where the good folk are believed to dwell. But none carry so direct a connection to one man as the Faerie Tree of Aberfoyle, whose branches hang heavy with prayers for Robert Kirk. In 1830, Walter Scott retold Kirk's tale in his writings, ensuring that the fairy minister entered the broader memory of Scotland. Scott noted that Friday was said to be the day of the fairies. To speak ill of them then was to invite calamity. Warnings pressed down through generations remain clear. Do not laugh at the offerings on the tree. Do not mock the silence of the woods. And never boast that you do not believe. The legend of Kirk echoes countless Scottish tales. There are stories of pipers who played for the good folk and were never seen again, of wanderers who vanished into mounds, of those who mocked the unseen and found their luck turned bitter. Yet Kirk's fate is sharper than these, for he was not nameless. He was a minister, learned and faithful. And if even he could be taken, what hope has anyone else? Today, the hill remains a site of pilgrimage. Scholars continue to debate his manuscript. Tourists tie ribbons, unsure whether out of respect, fear, or curiosity. And the story lingers. The sense that Robert Kirk himself still watches, still waits, held in a place just beyond reach. Robert Kirk's words endured. His manuscript, The Secret Commonwealth, was published long after his death. His grave remains in Aberfoyle, a simple stone. But his soul, they say, is still bound to Doon Hill, captive within the Faerie Tree, for daring to reveal the hidden world. Should you ever climb the hill, walk softly. Tie a ribbon if you must, but speak no mocking word, for the good folk hear every sound, and they do not forget. Remember this. Some hills guard more than stone and root. Some hills are doorways to another world. And if, as you descend, a cold wind presses at your back, resist the urge to turn. For perhaps a fairy minister walks there still, unseen, waiting for the dirk that will never come. Respect the hill, or be taken. And so, the legend of Robert Kirk endures, not just in books, nor in the whispers carried by the wind, but in the roots of the fairy tree itself. His story is a warning, a doorway, and a dare. But if you think this tale ends here, you're mistaken. For on the sister channel, SamHain's Campfire chills, the story takes flesh and shadow. There, beneath the same haunted pine, another tale unfolds, a darker one. The chilling legend of the Faerie Tree of Aberfoyle, where those who mocked the old ways came face to face with what waits beyond the hill. So gather close to the fire, follow the link below, and step into the next story. Join me on SamHain's Campfire Chills for the Faerie Tree of Aberfoyle, if you dare.